Hey y'all, I'm Angela from schoolingwithgrace.com, your chaos to confidence specialist. If you're leading a homeschool co-op, you've already got a ton of decisions to have to make, hopefully with your team and not by yourself, because martyrdom is not a homeschool leadership requirement. One of those biggest decisions that you're going to have to make is creating a co-op schedule. Now, if you're wondering, how do I even do that? What should that schedule look like? Stick with me, because today I'll give you some general guidelines, some real life examples, and some encouragement to build a schedule that works for you and your group and doesn't burn anyone out. All right, first things first, we're going to consider the type of homeschool group you want to create. Before you even start plugging in times and classes, pause yourself and ask, what kind of group are we? If you haven't hammered out your vision and mission yet, you're going to want to watch that video that I made earlier in this series before going too much further. Are you a nature study type group, meeting outdoors at different parks each week? Or are you more of a traditional setup with classroom bells, okay, maybe cell phone alarms on phones and rotating classes? Do you like sticking together as a big group, or do you prefer breaking into smaller age-based groups? The type and culture of your group will shape your schedule more than anything else. And if we're just being honest, an outdoor co-op is more likely to attract a different kind of homeschool mom than someone who's interested in a traditional co-op. And don't come at me for saying that. We're just different, and that is great. All right, so a laid-back nature co-op group will naturally be more flexible with a come-and-go rhythm and more freedom for kids to be just kids in the wild, right? A classroom-based co-op, that's going to look more structured and more traditional. Why does having a schedule even matter with this? Well, a schedule isn't going to be about plugging in times and classes. It's going to set the entire tone for your co-op. Without structure, your co-op can end up with kids bouncing between rooms like pinballs, and without breathing space, moms are going to get burned out faster than a candle at a birthday party. We don't want that. A thoughtful schedule brings flow, and kids know what to expect. Teachers know when they can refill their coffee, and the whole group feels calmer and more focused. All right, the next thing that you need to think about is how often you should meet. Let's talk frequency. Most co-ops where parents are all pitching in to teach meet about once or twice a week. That sweet spot gives families the benefit of group classes and community while still leaving enough time at home for, the homeschooling part. Here's the key. Don't overcommit. Just because you can meet more often and doesn't mean that you should. Think about the families. Most of our moms already are balancing soccer practice, piano lessons, and our own Target runs for printer ink. Sometimes less is more and more sustainable. Our co-op meets one time a week for 12 to 13 weeks a semester, and that has worked out great for us over the last 10, 15 years. Which day of the week you should meet? Honestly, any day works. But here are some things to keep in mind. Mondays and Fridays, they're often long weekend days for homeschool families, so you might see more absences on those days. On the flip side, they can be great because they don't interrupt the middle of the week. Wednesdays, remember, a lot of families have church activities on Wednesday evenings. A long co-op day might be too much. And back to Mondays, watch out for those federal holidays. They love landing on Mondays. Weekends, well, those are often reserved for family time, so commitment might be low. The bottom line is you're going to pick what works best for your group culture, and don't be afraid to adjust if you realize that what you had originally chosen just isn't working for your group. All right, now we need to decide on the types of schedules to structure your day. This is where things often go off the rails if you don't have a plan. If you're leading a more relaxed group, then you have a lot more flexibility. It might look something like you starting the day off with people arriving and socializing. Families roll in, chat, let the kids get the wiggles out. And then you have your announcements, quick group time. Maybe this is the time that you share updates or pray if your group is a faith-based group, and where you set expectations. Next, you'll have your lesson. Typically in these groups, it's going to be a short teaching time related to nature or some of the day's theme. And then you're going to move on to exploration. This is the fun part where kids get to go, explore, investigate, get messy. And then you're going to wrap it up. Some groups regroup for a summary, and others let the families just trickle out naturally. This type of schedule feels much less like a school day and more like community gathering with a purpose. All right, but maybe you have your heart set on a more of a traditional co-op schedule. Most co-ops that meet in buildings will lean more towards that direction. It might look like starting the day off with the arrival of the leadership and volunteers who are setting up the tables, the whiteboards, the TVs, and finding the scissors that were lost last week. Then the arrival of the members. Those families are going to come in. Hopefully you've got some sort of sign-in system happening. You're going to settle the kids, have your announcements, your morning meeting, maybe a time for prayer, games, worship, or even silly icebreakers to start the day off. Next are the class blocks. Usually those are about 45 minutes to 60 minutes long with different classes based on age or interest. And you might just have 1 or 2 blocks, or you might fill a whole school day. You want enough classes to make it worthwhile, but not so many that everyone's crying in the parking lot at the end of the day. Believe me, been there many times. Then there is the lunch and the social time. Build it in. Do not leave this out. This is often the highlight of the day for both kids and parents. At the end of the day, you're going to have cleanup. And this is especially important if you're renting a building, because you're going to want to leave it better than you found it. Once you've got those things under your belt, you want to focus on balancing the class offerings. Every co-op has the favorites. Those are the classes that everyone tries to sign up for first. But your schedule needs to have balance. This is how you're going to keep families coming back year after year. You want to mix in academic classes like science and math and history and writing with creative outlets like art, music, drama, and then throw in those practical fun electives like cooking, robotics, and even survival skills if you have someone who has a flair for that. This balance is going to keep kids engaged and spreads out the teaching load among the parents. Remember, a schedule that only looks good on paper but exhausts everyone in real life is not a win. The last thing that you want to do is to consider your teachers. Don't forget about them. AKA, these are the moms who are running the show. If one mom is teaching back-to-back classes with 0 breaks all day long, guess what? She's going to start fantasizing about skipping class and hiding in her minivan, scrolling TikTok. Build in those teacher breaks and spread the heavy lifting around. Remember, a schedule that works for the kids but burns out the adults is not a sustainable schedule. Here's the deal. There is no one-size-fits-all co-op schedule. The best one is the one that fits your group's culture, the family's needs, and the leadership capacity. So whether you're meeting once a week at a park or you're filling in buildings with classes and chaos, keep your schedule simple, sustainable, and community focused. That's the secret to a co-op that thrives instead of fizzles. All right, if this was helpful to you, give this video a thumbs up. If you need help putting together a schedule, I've got examples inside my ebook, How to Start a Homeschool Co-op, plus more resources over at schoolingwithgrace.com. If you've got questions, drop them in the comments. I'll be your co-op sounding board. Subscribe so you don't miss my next video where we're going to talk about setting up a co-op schedule. You've got this, and I'm cheering you on.